The Rock. We have Abby Johnson and the filmmakers of the new movie Unplanned and much more.
Welcome to Life on the Rock. This evening we have Abby Johnson, the former Planned Parenthood Employee of the Year, who had a massive conversion. Her eyes were opened by what she saw. And we also were going to have the directors of the film Unplanned, the story about Abby's life, Chuck Konzelman and Carrie Solomon.
We now go to a special preview of Unplanned.
Abby Johnson is in the other room.
Here.
Our first order of business is to present Planned Parenthood's Employee of the Year Award. Abby Johnson.
This is Abby. She's our newest volunteer escort. Abby, this is Cheryl Alessandro.
I'd be the youngest director in Planned Parenthood history.
You'll actually be in charge of the abortions at your clinic?
I have a chance to make a real difference.
No matter what you do for the rest of your life, you're still gonna be a baby killer.
The only thing that's changed is you, Abby. Can you even hear yourself talk right now about these procedures? These are little babies.
I'm not going to apologize for doing a job that helps women in crisis.
There's still a part of me that isn't sure.
I know. But the one thing that all experts agree on is that at this stage, the fetus can't feel anything.
Sorry to bother you, but they need an extra person in the back room. Are you free?
I saw it. It was like it was twisting and fighting for its life.
We commend the souls of these hundreds of children. And Lord, we pray to end abortion.
I really appreciate what you've done for us. I'll not forget it.
22,000 abortions. How do I even comprehend that?
Rough day at the office?
You could say that.
You're making a mess.
It's your dad and me. You are our baby from the moment of conception.
We are paying you to be a perfect instrument of corporate policy. We are an abortion provider.
I can't be a part of this anymore. Everything that they told us is a lie.
Don't underestimate the repercussions of this. You gotta be careful.
Rhonda, please, don't do this! Rhonda!
Let me tell you what's gonna happen if you walk through that door.
Congratulations. You've made an enemy of one of the most powerful organizations on the planet.
Abby Johnson, it's good to have you here in Alabama on UWTN.
Thank you for having me.
Just your story alone, I have to say that hopefully I don't get choked up, because literally I watched this movie twice within 24 hours. And that was just a couple days ago, and it's still kind of having an effect on me. Mm-hmm. And I read the book too, so I just wanted I wanted to get out of the way, and I wanted you to tell your story, first of all. Just a little bit of background of who you were and who you are now.
Sure, yeah. I worked for Planned Parenthood for 8 years. I was an abortion clinic director while I was there. Got involved as a college kid, didn't know anything about Planned Parenthood, didn't know really anything about the pro-choice or the pro-life movement, that debate. And, you know, I got involved because I believed that we were there to help women. I really got involved out of misguided compassion, and ended up leaving in October of 2009 after witnessing a live ultrasound guided abortion procedure where I saw a 13-week-old unborn child fight and struggle for his life against the abortion instruments. And I knew after seeing that there was life in the womb, that there was undeniable humanity inside the womb. And I knew that if those two things were true, then I was really on the wrong side of this debate. And so I ended up leaving.
The story that is told, the producers, Carrie and Chuck, do an amazing job. That has to be interesting, seeing your life played out by another actress and then your husband to played out by an actor. What is that like?
Yeah, it's still strange. I've seen the movie a bunch of times, and it's still strange. It's I don't know that will ever feel normal, but you know, it's a very vulnerable feeling. It was, you know, it was one thing to write out my story. That was actually very healing for me to write out the book and to share that. But there's something very powerful about seeing your story visually. And a couple of the scenes in particular that I remember after I watched it the first time, I looked at my husband and I said, why did I do this? Why did I decide to do this? This just feels too raw.
I think particularly the scene after your second abortion, you know, when you had taken the RU486 pill. You know, that must have been, you know, very difficult to see that.
Yeah, that was one of the most difficult scenes for me to watch because it was one of the most difficult experiences for me to live out in my life. And so to see that done, but to see it done so well. And so realistically. And that was one of the things that, you know, the directors told me when we first got this started was that, you know, they promised me that they would honor my story and my experiences, and they have kept that through this film. And, you know, they didn't have to embellish this story. They didn't have to over-dramatize the story. Abortion is bad enough on its own. We don't have to make it bigger or worse than it already is. And the thing about Unplanned is that I think really for the first time ever, our nation is going to have an opportunity to see the truth of abortion, to see what's really taking place in these clinics, and for all of us to experience a conversion of heart.
Yeah, that's what I felt like I experienced watching it. You know, I wanted to, you know, watching it, I broke down literally. And I think, you know, at the end of it, when it was all over, the first time I watched it, I'm like, Lord, this has got to stop. This has got to stop. You know, and what is my part as a Christian, as a priest, what is my part in my contribution in stopping this? Because it's worse than the Holocaust.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, it's a tragedy of epic proportions. It's one of the most serious, if not the most serious, human rights violation that we have ever seen in our nation, even in our world. And I hope that this film, there's been people who've said to me, you know, but Abby, it's just going to be a bunch of Christians that go see this film. And you know, my answer to that has always been great because
they need conversion too.
It is us. I mean, it is the church that really needs to have a radical conversion on this issue. Not so that we just check a box and we say, oh, sure, we're pro-life, right? Yeah, we're Catholic, we're pro-life. But that we're actually activating ourselves in this movement and that we're doing something to end abortion.
All throughout the movie, it does a nice job on just showing how the consistency of how you were and how you are now. There's not this, I mean, obviously the grace changes our human nature, but when I was watching the movie, I'm like, there's not much difference between when Abby Johnson was at Planned Parenthood and when she went through those doors and crossed through the threshold of 40 Days for Life. I mean, you have an amazing capacity to love and to help people?
You know, for better or worse, I am pretty much the same person all the time. So what you see is what you get with Abby Johnson. And I think living an authentic life is really important, and letting people see our flaws and who we really are, and understanding that we make mistakes, and that's okay. We all make mistakes, and but you know, I'm still sarcastic. I'm still very, very stubborn. You know, all the qualities. I'm still very motivated. I'm very driven, very self-motivated. Those are all things that were really instilled in me as a child by my parents. And those things are what caused me to really rise rapidly through the ranks of Planned Parenthood. And it's that same motivation that keeps me focused on doing what I'm doing right now in the pro-life movement.
Yeah. And there are so many themes throughout this movie. I think one of the themes that struck me was the theme of family, the theme of marriage. I mean, your marriage with Doug, you know, how, I mean, I was telling Carrie and Chuck that how patient he was with you. I mean, you know,
Still is.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, just what you say is like, he sounds, I mean, he sounds like an amazing guy too.
He is.
Like, and a real Christian. Like, that's what like the patience of God. God's very patient with us. But it sounds like when I saw Doug played out, his patience and how he just waited for you. That was amazing too.
Yeah, I think that was sort of unexpected for people, just to see, and even for me when I first watched the film, just to see this love story played out on the screen between me and Doug. And and people say, they ask me, is he really that great in real life? And I'm like, he really is. He really is that amazing. He really is that patient. He really does love me that well and that much. And I think in a time in our society where we look around and we see that for many people, marriage isn't certain.
That's right.
We need a love story.
We do.
We need to see that when God is at the center of your life, you can overcome.
And you can be healed too.
Yes.
If your brokenness can be healed.
Yes.
You know, we got about a minute left. Can you just, if there's anything that you can say to any women out there that are in the culture of pro-life and pro-choice rather, or on the fence, or maybe have had abortions, what can you say to them to reach out to them?
You know, I do encourage people who are on the fence about abortion, who support abortion, to go see Unplanned.
Okay.
It's an important lesson of truth.
Okay.
And I think that if you support something, you need to know exactly what it is that you are supporting. And if you're a woman or man who has been touched by abortion in some way, or even someone who has worked in the abortion industry like myself or currently works there, you need to know that there is hope and there is healing and there is radical redemption in Christ, and he is just waiting to pick up that burden for you.
Yeah, and that's what I think your story tells is the story of grace. You know, the story of the gospel. I mean, it's been said that we read the gospels, the gospel according to John, the gospel according to Matthew, gospel according to Mark, gospel according to Luke, but the gospel has to change us, and we have to write on the story of our own lives, the gospel according to Abby. You know, how has the gospel transformed my life? This movie, I think, is what changes that. Thank you so much, Abby, for coming to EWTN, sharing with us about Unplanned and just unveiling your story. I think it's going to touch many people throughout the world, Unplanned. And we want to encourage our viewers to pray for the success of Unplanned and all those throughout the world, to pray for you, to pray for your family, and also anyone involved with the promotion of this film. After the break, we'll talk with the filmmakers about the making of Unplanned.